better than last year actually, because now it's not. There's no more. Last year was a big joyride for the weekend.
Anyone could do this work without seeing, you know. Same thing I do if they were that interested in it.
Motoring 92 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.
Cars, cars, and more cars. You are looking at a veritable smorgasbord of 1992 and yes, even some 1993 vehicles. Hello everybody and welcome to Motoring 92. We are in Shannonville, Ontario, and everywhere you look, you see cars and automotive journalists. And speaking of journalists, with me right now is Alex Law, president of the Automobile Journalists of Canada. And Alex, who's here and what's going on?
We got about 42 Canadian automotive writers and about 6,000 corporate people, only seems that way, and 160 brand new 1992-93 cars costing about $6 million, and they're here for us to drive as much as we want. So no, there is no openings. You can't get into this job, unfortunately. And we're just here to test these cars for our Car of the Year awards. This is the first stage of the process. We do a two-stage process. We take all these cars, 52 cars, different kinds of cars, and we test them all and come up with 3 finalists in 8 categories, ranging from economy car up to luxury sedan up to high performance car. And we're just here to see which is the better cars, which are the better cars. We come here because a lot of the guys are racing fans, like to go fast. I know it's not real world, you don't get to drive on a track when you go, to work, but this gives you a chance to put a car closer to its real limits. So in case you ever do get a chance, we can evaluate it. There's also a lot of road driving for more real world. And we try to give the guys every opportunity, every chance to do every kind of driving within 2 days.
Is it a fair system?
Life is not fair, neither is this. I mean, these things are never fair. They can't be perfect. But we make it as good as we can by giving them a ballot with 20 different things to evaluate, a total score for each car out of 200. The corporate people who bring their cars here are really happy with it because they think it's as equitable, it's fair, and as honest a system as exists in the world.
When you arrive here, do you and a lot of other journalists already have an idea of what cars you want to drive, who may be the contenders?
Sometimes, but sometimes there are, obscure cars that have either just very recently been released that we haven't had an opportunity to drive on city streets. So you really have to drive all of them to give each one a fair analysis. And this year the method that we're using for doing the analysis is a lot more strict than we've used in the past. So you really have to go through each car with a fine-tooth comb.
You got a favorite?
Today, well, yes, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that,
sure
though. Okay, my favorite car to drive actually is total fun thing is the Mazda MX-3. I think it's just great. Having the best time in that car.
We got all these keys here. What's going on? How does it all work here with the...
Parked right here are 3 categories of cars: luxury coupes, luxury sedans, and sporty performance cars. Journalist wants to drive one of these cars. He comes and picks the key up here, signs it out, takes the car off, brings the key back when he's done.
Sounds like fun.
Has been so far.
It's better than last year actually, because now it's no more. Last year was a big joyride for the weekend. You just get on the track and drive the car on the track. But this weekend, all the guys are on the road because there's more technical questions, and the questions are more exterior appearance to interior ergonomic, visibility, ride and comfort.
Now you're about to head out onto the racetrack with this 92 Mazda MX-3. Now normally a consumer wouldn't be driving this car on a track, but what are you looking for when you go out there?
The track exercise gives us the opportunity to really test the handling of the car and to a degree the braking, because some of those curves out there, 3 and 5, you got to get hard on the brakes if you're going to go through that curve safely. So braking, handling, acceleration to a degree, and it is actually taking the street scene and accentuating it to the point that you're able to get more information in a hurry, and that's why we do it.
Having a little fun too?
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say it's a little bit of fun.
I'm standing on the median separating the east and westbound lanes of Highway 401. As we have learned, vehicles are losing control on the shoulders of the road oversteering, and then they are catapulted across this median into the path of oncoming traffic.
A lot has changed on the 401 between Belleville and Trenton since we first brought you this story on Motoring 90. This is the stretch of highway that claimed 14 lives in 1987 alone. Almost all of the fatalities were single-vehicle rollovers that seemed to occur after drivers went off the road onto the median, overcorrected, and rolled over. Now the ministry has installed concrete barriers between the east and westbound traffic. Some see it as nothing more than a Band-Aid solution.
Well, the highway, if I'm going to be very critical, the highway really was ill-designed in the first place. The median is only required because the east and westbound lanes are too close together. The median itself, the open area, travel anywhere in the United States. Their medians are 2 to 4 times the width of ours. Sometimes they're so far apart you can't even see the other lane of traffic. That's what we should have had. Putting up a wall so that you have something to stop you from going across into the opposing traffic, that seems a little after the fact. So, do I support it? I suppose so. It's a Band-Aid cure to a problem that already exists, but it's a shame that the problem existed in the first place.
As a car, the Saturn is a good one. The SC we tested has a competent, sporty feel. The four-door sedans offered, especially the SL2, offer much of the performance and handling of the SC, plus the added advantage of a usable back seat.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
There is an old adage that says if you can't beat them, play them at their own game. With that in mind, GM formed Saturn, the intent being to create a North American car that looks, feels and smells like a Japanese car. To succeed with Saturn, GM had to change a lot of the philosophy that has been the bane of this continent's car industry. The changes came from all areas, not the least of which was the relationship between GM and the union. Under a new deal struck between the two parties, 20% of the workers' income is based on the performance of the company in terms of sales and product quality. The effect this has on the car is obvious from the moment you begin the walk around. The fit and finish is very good, and over rough roads there are none of those annoying rattles and squeaks many have grown to expect. Sensory perception has a lot to do with how you feel about a car. To this end, all the switches and controls have been designed to offer a uniform and tactile feel. The choice of body materials used on the new Saturn is quite interesting. First of all, the hood, roof and rear deck lid are all made of steel, whereas all 3 side panels, including the outer door skin, are all plastic. The advantage of a plastic side are twofold. First of all, it resists the dents and dings that you pick up in parking lots, but secondly, and perhaps more importantly, these plastic panels are 100% recyclable, something that is becoming more important in today's world. The plastics used in the interior have been given a lot of texture, which in turn gives the panels a richer feel and appearance. From the driver's seat, all controls can be reached with ease, with the exception of the cruise control functions. They are located too low down and too far away from your normal hand position on the wheel. Saturn gets top marks for putting the radio above the heater controls. The information displayed by the analog instrumentation is easily retrieved despite the rather small nature of the 3 center gauges. The driving position is comfortable and the large seat bolsters provide plenty of lateral support. The rear environment in the SC is cramped, with both head and leg room being at a premium. The rear seat backs are split and fold down to improve the versatility and roominess of the trunk. The SC utilizes 4-wheel disc brakes complete with an anti-lock feature. The ABS is GM's own design. On the skid pad, the system worked to perfection. It also has a major advantage. It costs roughly 60% of the equivalent Bosch-based system, making it a very affordable item, hence its inclusion on many GM models. A move worthy of praise from anyone who thinks that ABS is an important safety feature. This 1.9-litre twin overhead cam engine is a Saturn exclusive. Now you can order this vehicle with either a 4-speed automatic transmission or a 5-speed standard, both of which were designed and are being built in the Spring Hill, Tennessee factory where they assemble the new Saturn. This engine provides great performance, allowing 0 to 100k times of a titch over 8.5 seconds. This level of performance is due, for the most part, to the fact that the engine produces 119 of the 121 pounds-feet of torque at 2800 RPM. This gives a lot of low-end pull. Matched with this engine is a 5-speed manual transmission. Both the transmission and clutch are easy to use, making the SC very easy to drive around town. The SC uses a fully independent suspension setup that provides a very good mix between ride comfort and handling capabilities. During the pylon test, the car tracked a clean, precise line, with both body roll and understeer being very well controlled. Out on the open road, it absorbs most irregularities in stride. The benefit of this balanced setup was appreciated on the drive back from the Spring Hill plant. Long hours behind the wheel were not overly fatiguing, and during periods of spirited driving, the car felt very stable and sure-footed. My pet peeve on the Saturn has to do with this motorized seatbelt. Not only is it a real pain the way it runs back and forth across the top of the window, but the important point is you must remember to fasten the lap belt. If you don't, this type of restraint is vastly inferior to the 3-point belts we use in Canada. Unfortunately, all Saturns sold in this country will come with a motorized seatbelt. Now to the scoreboard for a rundown on the 1992 Saturn. The whole suspension setup is well balanced, offering a good mix between ride and handling. The beefed up sway bars and better rubber found in the SC certainly help here. At a little over 8.5 seconds to eclipse the 100k mark, the SC is certainly no slouch. Where the engine comes into its own, though, is the amount of torque available at the low end. This provides brisk initial oomph as well as good mid-range performance. The new Delco 6 ABS system found on the SC is simpler and cheaper than current competitive systems. On the skid pad, it proved to be the equal of any other, recording average stopping distances of just 118 feet from 80k. For the front passengers, the level of comfort is good, with minimal wind, engine or road noise. The rear environment, on the other hand, is cramped, making the car a 2+2 rather than a true 4-seater. During the test, we averaged a respectable 9.1 litres per 100 kilometres, or 31 miles per gallon. As a car, the Saturn is a good one. The SC we tested has a competent, sporty feel. The 4-door sedans offered, especially the SL2, offer much of the performance and handling of the SC, plus the added advantage of a usable back seat. The answer to the most commonly asked question is yes, they are as good as the respective competition.
We're back at Shannonville, Ontario, where the Automobile Journalists of Canada are conducting their Car of the Year test. We have got over $4 million worth of product here. In fact, any car that's going to be sold in 1992 and even 1993 is here. Now, joining me from Subaru Canada right now is Bob Villas. And Bob, first question I have to ask you is, the journalists, a lot of them get the cars during the year, but how important is it to have your car here today?
Well, if the car isn't here, it doesn't qualify for the voting. It's pretty clear cut. And for a lot of the guys, it's the first time they're getting into some of the products that's available, to drive throughout the next 3 days. So it's quite important.
Now, some cars don't really change that much from year to year. With Subaru, you've got the new SVX. You got your fingers crossed?
Absolutely. Competition is tight. It's a real hot category. We've got other cars such as the SC400 and the Eldorado Coupe and the Jaguar. So it's going to be pretty close.
How important is it to get Car of the Year?
Oh, it's extremely important. It sets up our marketing for the year. Our Japanese executives take it very, very seriously. Other car companies have flown product over, such as the new RX-7 from Mazda and the Porsches from Germany coming over from Stuttgart. They put a lot of weight behind this.
Okay, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Bob Villas from Subaru Canada. We're now going to leave the track for a moment and join our favorite mechanic, Bill Gardner. And this week, Bill has something just a little different.
Yeah, that's a little different, all right. Thanks, Shelley. Well, we're going to try and see if we can execute this roadside repair of the broken fan belt with the pantyhose. You've probably all heard this one a few thousand times. But does it work? Well, let's see. What we've done is we've taken a length of pantyhose and we've routed it around the pulleys and got the approximate length and tied a knot in it. It's pretty stretchy stuff, so we can work it over those pulleys where we're missing that fan belt. We've got a knot in it. Seems to be in the grooves, and we'll see if it'll actually drive that alternator around enough that we could limp this car home. Okay, Shelley, fire it up. Wow, I don't believe it. It works. Not the right way to do it, I guess, but it'd probably get you home in a pinch, so I guess the girls would know what to do, but guys, I don't know where you're going to get that pantyhose. You're going to have to use your imagination, I guess. But on a little bit more serious note, fan belts are one thing that you want to check as often as you can, because they're something that can leave you stranded on the side of the road. So have a look at them periodically and make sure that they're in good shape, and every couple of years you want to replace them, put new ones on. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 92.
If you have any comments or stories you'd like to share with us, drop us a line at Motoring 92, Post Office Box 284, Station J, Toronto, Ontario, M4J 4Y1.
It's very difficult for Eric Davidson to think of himself as someone special, but after spending just minutes in his company, it's easy to form a different opinion.
So this is the secret recipe to get this car going then.
Well, that's right. You might call it that, I guess. It likes rum, though.
Does this only work with rum, or is this car drink vodka as well?
It'll take vodka, I think.
When he was just 2 years old, Eric Davidson lost his sight in the now famous Halifax Harbor explosion. Now, 74 years later, this retired mechanic brings the past back to life. His latest project is this 1922 Rio Model T.
God, it's not as nearly as good as it should be by the length of time I owned it, but I neglect it a lot, you know. See, it's been in the garage ever since last fall, like I said before, and it got dusty, and I washed it this morning in a rush, and I doubt if I did a very good job on it. You said it looks all right, so I don't know. It might not be good enough yet to take pictures of, though.
It's just a hobby, oh yes. You know, these cars, you can't use them every day for going to work with and driving around. Well, you can drive them around the city a little bit, but they only have two-wheel brakes on them. And it's all mechanical brakes. And they haven't got the getaway or stopping power as the modern cars have, and you got to have it in these days. These days the traffic is so heavy, it's pretty hard to use a car like that. I worked for ever since 1944 when I got my job at Citadel Motors, and then I went with the city. And I was with the city for 25 years, and I retired in May 1980.
Doesn't seem like you've slowed down a bit.
No, I don't feel that I did. I'm not too happy about, well, I don't mind the idea of retiring. But well, those days I was busy every day. These days I'm not that busy. I know you have it good to go for, lots of time to go for a stroll and walk around the town. Then I go down to Northwood twice a week and play the banjo. That's really something.
Yeah, okay. Good hole. Yeah. That's what I get. I'm being stupid.
I'm amazed by what he's done. But by growing up with him in the house, you see, he's there all the time, so you don't look at it that way. It's more of a natural thing. You know, this your dad, this is the way he is, and this is the way you expect him to be, type of thing. Until you see other people in the same situation who may not have fared as well, or maybe people who have full sight who again haven't fared as well, then it becomes apparent to you that it is amazing what he has done.
A couple of really neat things on this 1922 car. That keyhole you're looking at, basically that's a shift locker. Now, even back in 1922, they had crime. The idea being if you left your car unattended, you put a key in, you lock it into gear. Nobody can steal it. Another neat thing on this car is that everybody has a heating gauge on their dashboard. Well, back in 1922, the heater gauge was right there on top of your hood, and basically it worked just like a thermometer.
Mechanically, this engine's the same as any modern one. That's straight six. Now on this side we have the generator there. Generator right back here. And the water pump is here. And of course that shaft goes into the timing gears. It's run by the timing gears, you see. Instead of a belt, the belt still runs the fan all right, but that's all it does. There's the belt there to run the fan. And then the distributor runs off the end of the generator here. You notice that there? The challenge is to see how good you can get it, how good you can restore. And you can compare it with someone else's car if you want to. Anyone could do this work without seeing, you know. The same thing I do if they were that interested in it.
Look at all these shiny new cars, and they're all eligible for the Car of the Year program. We'll talk about that next on Kenzie's Corner.
Kenzie's Corner with Jim Kenzie.
It seems that every car ever made has been chosen Car of the Year by somebody somewhere. I mean, magazines and yes, even television programs the world over choose their favorites each year. And that's what we, the Automobile Journalists Association of Canada, were doing at Shannonville, picking our 1992 Cars of the Year. Now, some people question the entire validity of this sort of program, feeling that it's overly influenced by advertising. Well, that may be true of a program run by a single publication, but that's what makes the AJAC program unique, the broad-based nature of our judging panel. We had journalists from coast to coast converging on this one site to pick our winners. Now, the AJAC program isn't perfect. For starters, we had almost 50 models that were eligible for the various categories, and in just 2 days, we hardly had enough time to look at each car. Now, I had driven most of these cars previously and had a chance to kind of prejudge my favorites, but it was still tough to give each car its fair due. We also had a very complicated evaluation form this year, looking at every aspect of the car's performance, and there simply wasn't enough time. Still, I think a car that wins an AJAC award is definitely worthy of your consideration, because with all its faults, the AJAC program, in my view, is still the best in the world. Oh, did I mention that when this program was initially developed, I was the president of AJAC? I'm Jim Kenzie.
Well, that's it for this week. It's now time for yours truly to get out here and see what's new in 92. And what you're looking at right now is the brand new Mazda RX-7. That's it for now, but we'll see you next week for more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
Motoring 92 has been brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.